Carson Connor, you have now been officially informed that you have 100% of the Epstein files.
Well, that's just wrong. And it's not just Thomas Massie and I who are now calling it out, not just Marjorie Taylor Greene who's calling it out. People like Tim Burchett, people like Nancy Mace are saying this is just not transparent. Even Senator Kennedy is saying this is not transparent. And the reality is they're muddying the water. I mean, instead of focusing on people like Lutnick, people like the ambassador in Turkey, people like the Stephen Bannon, who had actual correspondence or relationships with Epstein, they're just putting out every public figure. And not only is that letting off people who actually may have been involved in illegal or immoral behavior, but it's also breeding such cynicism because, as your monologue showed, there are people like President Obama who didn't get anywhere close to this, who are decent, who are moral, who believe in the rule of law and America's character. And for them to try to conflate everyone is a terrible disservice to democracy.
What are your next steps?
Well, we're contemplating several things. Nancy Mace has actually offered an idea of whether we have to have another legislative approach in Congress to clarify further the law. And remember, Lawrence, the first bill passed 427 to 1 and 100 to 0 in the Senate. So there are veto-proof majorities that we could have. There are survivors who could bring a case before Judge Engelmeyer and Judge Berman in the Southern District of New York. Thomas Massie or I may bring that case. We, as you recall, asked for a special master for this purpose. Now, Judge Engelmeyer ruled that we needed to actually bring a motion, an actual case, and we're contemplating that.
The Epstein files, unless they're destroyed by this administration and Donald Trump gives pardons to the people who destroy them, will be there when a Democrat wins the White House next time, presumably in the next presidential election, and a new attorney general. What do you anticipate they might be doing in the Justice Department in anticipation of someday having to hand over to a Democratic attorney general the Epstein files?
I believe they're trying to cover up as much as they can of people close to the president or in his network. I mean, we know that the FBI already scrubbed these files with redactions, and we don't know where the existing files are. But I don't want to wait 3 years. I mean, you have France saying that they're going to prosecute anyone who's involved. New Mexico just today said they want to open up an investigation into the ranch. You have other nations that are holding their government leaders accountable and wanting to investigate. And only in the United States of America is our DOJ saying we're done, we want to move on, no investigation, no prosecutions. And then you have a Commerce Secretary who's all over the files, lied about it, and no consequence. This is an affront to survivors, and it is questioning our morality as a nation.
I want to listen to more of what your legislative partner on this, Republican Thomas Massie, said on ABC yesterday.
They're citing deliberative process privilege in order not to release some of the documents. The problem with that is the bill that Ro Khanna and I wrote says that they must release internal memos and notes and emails about their decisions on whether to prosecute or not prosecute, whether to investigate or not investigate. It's important they follow that because then we could find why they didn't prosecute Leslie Wexner. What was the decision tree there? And also why in 2008 they gave Jeffrey Epstein such a light sentence.
Carson Connor, that seems to be the very point of your legislation, to get at that kind of material.
Absolutely. They didn't hand us any of the information about why Jeffrey Epstein was not charged, why his co-conspirators were not charged, why these powerful men for decades got away with this and were above the law. And it's important not just for justice for survivors, it's important at a look at the two tiers of justice in America and how to fix this. But most shockingly, when Thomas Massie and I went to see the files, when Jamie Raskin has gone to see the files, Maxwell Frost has gone to see the files, they see total blanking out of the survivor statements to the FBI agents. And that is the most important thing, those 302 forums where the survivors named names of people who abused them, of people who turned a blind eye with the abuse. and they are protecting those folks. And it's not just Thomas Massie or me. Now the country is really up in arms. And this is not just going to go away. It's not going to go away because of people like you, because of the survivors, and because many Republicans now have been totally dissatisfied with how Bondi and Blanche have handled this.
Congressman Ro Khanna, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Appreciate it.